When a near-fatal illness led doctors to prescribe Timothy McMahan King narcotics, he ended up, as millions of others have, addicted. He eventually learned to manage pain without opioids, and he shares his story and the lessons he learned as a means to help others. We're pleased to present author of the book Addiction Nation, What the Opioid Crisis Reveals About Us, Timothy McMahan King.
It was Sunday morning, Easter morning, just a few months ago. And I stepped out the front door just to take the trash out. Walked back alley, threw away the trash. There weren't a lot of people on the streets that morning, but on my way back to that front door, I saw a small group of people. And in the middle was a man they were trying to hold up as he stumbled and fell. And it took me a few moments, but I realized what was happening. And I ran across the street and I said, I don't care about anything else. Just let me know, do you have Narcan? And a woman broke off. She walked over to me and she said, I hope he's okay. I don't know if he'll be okay. But he got desperate and he bought from somebody he didn't know. And I don't want him to die, but please don't call the cops yet. And so I walked back to my home. And I walked over to the drawer where we keep the Narcan. And I opened up the shade and I looked out and I could see him there propped up on a park bench with his head leaning down onto his chest and his friends desperately trying to keep him upright. And there are moments in our lives where lines that normally keep things separated start to feel blurred. The line between someone who is housed and someone who is unhoused, someone who's using and someone who's in sobriety, between being fallen and being redeemed, between sinner and saint, and between life and death in that place somewhere in between. And as I looked at him and I saw his head still down on his chest, I thought, that could have been me. It was just 10 years before I had been in the hospital, and I would have been on heavy doses of narcotics. And I don't remember the exact moment when the medicine that I needed to stay alive became a poison that was slowly killing me, but I felt powerless to stop. But I can remember those moments with my own head hung down on my chest with a bottle of pills and a box of fentanyl patches right at the bedside, not being sure if I could ever stop. And so I wondered about his story. What had brought him here? Had he been a construction worker who got injured on the job? And when he took those pills home, he found that they not only helped with the pain in his knees or his back, but helped ease the anxiety, even if it was just for a moment, about whether or not he'd be able to pay his bills or ever go back to work. Or maybe he'd played sports in high school, and when injury after injury turned into surgery, and went home with Percocet, got used to that warm feeling, helping after surgery, but also easing for just a moment a sense of loneliness or anxiety. Or maybe there had been some kind of trauma. Maybe there had been some kind of abuse. Maybe there had been some sort of undiagnosed mental illness. And while the pain medicine didn't make it go away, didn't heal anything, it could at least make it feel better for a moment. And I realized at that moment too, that no matter what his story, no matter what brought him to that point that day, my reaction would be the same. And I stood there in my vigil by the window with that Narcan in my hand as a prayer, as a promise, as a possible miracle if things went wrong. And I knew at a moment's notice I would run out and do whatever I could to make sure that we had life and not death. And that is hard to see. Hard to see because that story is not the only one. And one becomes hundreds and thousands and then tens of thousands. And I knew that if things went wrong that morning, his death would be labeled an accidental overdose death. But when we talk about accidents, what we normally think of are things that are unexpected, unplanned, things that could not be foreseen. And when there's a car accident, we do often ask, who's at fault? Who could have prevented this tragedy? But there's something that happens when a car malfunctions the same way over and over and over again, causing an accident. When accidents keep happening on that same stretch of road or at that same intersection, we stop asking what's going on with the drivers, what's wrong with the drivers. We start asking what's wrong with the car, what's wrong with that stretch of road, what's wrong with that intersection, what's wrong with the system. We stop asking what's going on with the individual and we say maybe there's something larger at work here. And we stop using the term accident and we start to say maybe there's some negligence. Maybe there are people who know that we could change things so that we would all be safer, but they haven't. And that's where when we know year after year, we're seeing 68,000, 70,000, 72,000 overdoses, I don't think we can use the term accident anymore. I think we need to start saying maybe there's some negligence. And this is not negligence where we're blaming the people who are dying, the people who are using drugs, but we have to ask maybe there's some negligence in our society, in our economy, in our politics, in our failure to build community and those connections that we've talked about so much tonight. Maybe there's negligence because we know we need more funding for treatment. We know people need to get there immediately and far too often they're waiting. We know they need high quality treatment and too often we still aren't holding ourselves to the highest standards of what works. We know that if a person is sent to prison, they are more likely to keep using. And we know that one of the most vulnerable populations to an overdose are the people who are just returning from incarceration. We know all of these things. And I'm not saying that this crisis is going to be an easy fix or that it's simple, but there is so much that we know that can help that we still aren't doing. We need to ask ourselves if it's still right to call all of these deaths an accident or if we start needing to call it negligence. There's a story a lot of you probably know. I don't think I'm telling you anything new, that when miners used to go down and dig deep into the earth, they were in danger of being exposed to toxic gases. And the problem with those gases is that once they were exposed and once they could feel the effects, it was often too late. They were already gone. And so they started to bring down small birds, little canaries in cages. And those canaries, when they would bring them down, had such sensitive systems that they would be the first to know that something wasn't right. And so if that canary stopped singing, if that canary fell to the bottom of the cage, they didn't ask what's wrong with the canary. They knew it was a warning sign for all of them, that there was something toxic in the environment that was about to threaten everyone's life and well-being. And friends, I think we need to ask the question, if those who are in recovery, those who have struggled with addiction, those who are struggling with mental illness, really are just the canaries in the coal mines, the ones who are the first to know that something isn't right in the environment around them, that something is wrong, not just for them, that something is wrong, not just in their lives, but something is wrong for all of us. And this is where I believe that those in recovery, those who are close to them, can be the prophets our communities need today, because they are the ones who are seeing what is wrong first. They are feeling it in their hearts and their souls and their lives. We feel it deeply, and because we feel it, we can be a warning to others. We can let others know that we're headed in the wrong direction and that something needs to change. And this is where I looked out the window, and after about an hour, with the help of his friends, I saw that man start to get up, still wobbly, still not doing well, but walking and alive. And there I ended my vigil by the window with that Narcan in my hand as a prayer as a gift. But that morning I didn't need to give. And for anyone who's had this kind of struggle, I'm not going to say that your pain is a gift, but we know so many here tonight can testify that over time, with healing, with support, that pain can become purpose, that struggle can have meaning, and that lives can be transformed. And so each of us, I hope, that we can open up the shades in our windows, take a look out and see how our friends and neighbors are doing, and know that the struggle that we have had in our life with work, with dedication, can become a gift that we can hold in our hands and run out to others who might need it. Because that gift is not just for ourselves, not just in our own lives, but that gift is a gift that moves death to life. And that is one gift of resurrection, that no matter how many times we give it away, it always grows in strength and in power and blessing for others who truly need it. Thank you.